here. All right, we are so excited to have you joining us for the Niswonger Remote Learning Series this afternoon. Sessions were designed to provide educators opportunities to extend and refine their practices, engaging students in remote and or online learning. We will showcase high-impact practices, model strategies, share resources, and highlight ways to facilitate effective remote learning. And although you will see that many of the strategies and resources we share are applicable to in-person traditional learning settings as well. My name is Bethany, and I'm the Director of Professional Learning for the Rural Life Project. And at this time, I'll transition this over to Gina and her team, but I will be here along with John to support participants if they need anything. All right, Gina, it's yours.
Thank you so much, dear. Welcome to those of you who could join us today. I know it's afternoon, it's after school, and we're all wore out. So thank you so much for being here. We just wanted to take a little bit of time and share some stories, some thoughts, some lessons learned from online teaching. And I wanted to do this through some of our Niswonger online teachers. We're hoping that with this, you can kind of get some insight into some things that we wish we had known, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, for some of us, when we first started kind of diving in to this world. I'm going to share my screen with you. And the first thing that I want to do is just introduce you to who's going to be speaking today. So I'm Gina. I'm Gina Pavlovich. I'm the Director of Niswonger Online. If you had any professional developments with us this summer, you've probably already had to listen to me talk for way too long. So when they reached out to me and asked me if I'd like to help for this one, I always want to help, but I thought I don't want to make them sit through me again. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to reach out to some of my best teachers and let them kind of give some insight into their online classes. So today we're going to also have with us Jill Davis. She is the person who I call my angel. She's been teaching French in the classroom and online for many years, but she's currently the assistant director of Niswonger Online, which is why she gets that angel title, my kind of life support. And this fall, she is teaching French 1 with us. Next, we're going to hear from the fabulous Dr. Fine, who's been teaching fine arts classes, K through 12, in classroom and online for many, many years. And she is currently teaching AP Art for us, and also online photography, which is one of those courses that I tell people all the time that I want to take one day. I want to take Karen's online photography course. And then last but not least, you're going to hear from our English guru, Miss Britni Sauceman. She's taught a whole bunch of English classes, again, both online and in the classroom. And she's currently the library media specialist at Tennessee High School. And right now, this fall, she's teaching an online ACT prep class for students who are doing Niswonger Online. They're across the state. And I'm so excited. This is a newer class for us. And I love that we're able to offer these opportunities to students from all over the state. Before I turn it over, and I'm going to pass it to Karen first, but before I turn it over, I just want to say that if you have any questions while we're speaking, please feel free to put them in the chat box, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on that chat box, and we can answer them while that person is speaking, or we can wait and we can answer them at the end. But we would love to, any questions or any comments that you might have, we would love to hear them. So let's get started with, again, Dr. Karen Fine, and let's just hear a few stories and a few thoughts from her and on, how it is for her with our online courses and the designing of online courses.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is, as Gina said, we've worked together in many different situations online. Dr. Karen Fine. I have been teaching high school online classes for the last 9 years. I also teach in brick and mortar elementary school setting during the day, although since March I've been teaching these 400 students online as well. I did all my master's and doctorate courses in very rigorous online formats, and even did my dissertation about online education and the visual arts. Some may say that I'm an expert in online education, but don't let that fool you into thinking I have everything online under control. I most certainly do not. I'm going to share with you 3 different areas of online teaching that I have learned the hard way. And one of the things that I like to share with teachers in professional development is learn from me and other teachers the way things we've done that are positive, negative things that we can share with you. So anything ever that I have, I share with anyone that asks. The first thing is being afraid. I had a friend who was part of starting an online high school, and I thought it would be interesting to do my shadowing and administrator hours for one of my doctoral courses. I asked him if it would be okay for me to work with him 9 summers ago, and he said yes. And the first day I showed up, he told me that he had a special project for me to do. I had been teaching for over 20 years at the time, but never did anything with online education. So the special project was to design his Art 1 course for the new school. Now, I've been teaching now for 30 years in visual arts. So I thought, I can do this. I said I would, since I was getting credit for my doctoral coursework. I felt like I had to at least try. Fear set in, of course, because I didn't know at all what I was doing. I did some reading about Canvas and Moodle and other platforms that I've used previously. So being somewhat old school, I got out a pad of paper and started writing down the components of an Art 1 course tied to the state standards. I broke things down by lesson categories, did research about Art 1 courses, and started compiling a semester course. I was still in fear, seriously, but little by little, I learned how to transfer what I had written on my paper into modules and how to connect assignments and discussions and quizzes, etc. That summer, many years ago, I learned one of the most important things in my career. It is normal to be afraid, but do it anyway. After I designed that course, took me all summer, he asked me to be an adjunct and teach it. At that time, I didn't even know what an adjunct was. Since then, 9 years ago, I have designed Art 1, 2, 3, 4, careers in art, photography, and I teach them all. I also went into my fear, and I teach AP Art History online using a course designed by one of the first online school systems called Florida Virtual School. So that is my very first tip. I call these fine tidbits. The next fine tidbit I want to share is it's okay to make changes as you go along. Anytime we design a course in the classroom or online, we try to include everything that we think is pertinent. We set out to say, design the perfect course. We have great topics, videos, assignments, discussions, and assessments. We think it is a perfect course and use it for the semester. Then, after teaching it once, we realized it wasn't so perfect at all. The first time I designed my Art 4 course, I thought it was so inventive doing lessons that were every other week. I assumed that my Art 4 students would pace themselves and have amazing finished products at the end of each 2-week period. I guess I gave them a lot of latitude in their project choices. Guess what? After trying this for a semester, I realized that the quality of their work had gone down. I figured out that by giving them the freedom of 2-week time periods was just too much time for them, and most students waited until the last few days to do their work anyway. I revamped the Art 4 course and added some additional material, weekly due dates, etc. And the following semester, I saw an increase of quality assignments turned in. Too much freedom backfired, and instead of just leaving it the way it was, I made the right changes, which has led to a much better course. I am also willing in the future to change things again. I always make a practice of reading through all my modules each semester to see if what I want to change is there, and then I change it. And finally, my third fine tidbit, it's very important to make online courses interesting visually. As a visual arts teacher, I'm very in tune with making my course not only interesting in content, but actually visually interesting to look at when scrolling through. You can tell the look of my courses because I have a consistent style for each class. I grab the students' attention with interesting graphics, video, etc. My font sizes, colors, module layout, etc. are consistent. I was working with the music teacher recently, and she created a module for her elementary students. It was beautiful, but there was so much there. She put everything in there. We had a discussion that more isn't necessarily better. She revamped her module, created 2 separate modules from one with all the info, and she made a consistency when she was done that was visually appealing while giving her students the info that she felt was important. Create visually interesting courses and students will stay interested. Thank you very much. Those are my 3 fine tidbits.
Thank you so much, Karen. I love the fine tidbits. And this picture is awesome. I think I told you that the very first time I ever saw it in your class,
Yeah.
but that's just the coolest picture ever. Next, we're going to move over to Mrs. Jill Davis. I love her perspective on all of this because she's going to come at it from a teacher, but she's also seen the administrative side while helping me as the assistant director of this program. And then also she's coming at it from that foreign language side. And of all of the courses that we offer online, there's 2 kinds of groups of courses in which the parents are more than anybody are saying, now how in the world do you teach that online? And one of those groups is foreign languages, and they just don't get it. But as soon as I start explaining it and I start talking about the layout of the courses and things like that, they're like, oh, okay, I see. And I tell them, your kids will actually speak more French in this online class than I bet they will in a classroom. And so once I explain it, they tend to understand it. But Jill, she knows all of our foreign language courses because she has done so much work in all of them. So I would love to get her perspective now.
Thank you, Gina. So I think my first takeaway, and this is something I'm really working on right now, is just to make, we've always made our courses personal, showing our personality through, little jokes or little graphics and different things. But something I'm really working on right now is showing my face. I've made videos in the past explaining things, and I've recently started using Loom, and I can put a little circle with my face in the video. And I've also sort of let go of my standards a little bit. Before I would have been like, oh, I need to fix my hair before I make this video, and be somewhere where the lighting is good. And you can see right now I'm not in a good spot because I'm hiding from my children. But that's, I've been showing up on video, showing my face on a Saturday morning when I just took a shower and my hair is in a ponytail, and just said, hey, students, wanted to check in with you. So really taking time to make some video announcements for my students, just all that kind of stuff. And then getting to know students. I had a student last year, for example, who had heard through the grapevine that he was struggling a little bit. He was a senior and just needed some encouragement to finish up his school year. And I reached out to him via email, and I've never met this student in person, but I said, hey, how's things going? I'm sure you're working a lot right now because I know you work at Kroger, and this was like March, April sort of time, and he was astounded that I remembered where he worked. And just little things that come up in class discussions, and anyway, it just meant a lot to him. So just those little details about your students as well. Another thing, coming at this from a teacher perspective and an admin perspective, is my point number 2, which is just to really start slow and give lots of support, lots of directions at the beginning. As far as the technology, students know how to do things on apps that I've never heard of, but they don't always know how to use Google Drive to submit their assignments to you. They don't always know how to write an email. I have a student who's currently emailing back and forth with me, and she keeps putting her message in the subject line. And so I get this really long subject. So really give them a lot more time than you think they need in those first 2 weeks. And generally in the courses that I teach, we use Canvas, and for foreign language, we have different things where they need to record their voice with the audio recorder built into Canvas, and then they have, so I give a lot of little assignments at the very beginning, just where they have to practice using all the different features of the course. So they have to practice recording video, they have to practice recording audio, they have to practice sending me a Canvas message. I had an assignment in one of my classes this week where I literally just put as their assignment, they need to contact me to check in. So they had a choice. They could use Canvas message, email, or text. And I've had them use all 3. And just to force them to, keep track of my email address or learn how to use that Canvas messaging feature. And that really tends to help. I also, as part of my job as the assistant to Gina, I have been making lots of videos and PDFs with screenshots showing students how to do things sort of step by step. And they really need that a lot of times, that support. Number 3, I've been thinking a lot about all the different ways that I can reach my students with things like announcements, important due dates, and things like that. This came from a conference that Gina and I went to last year for high school counselors, actually. It was talking about how students, some students, they want just short bullet points, get to the point, tell me exactly what I need to do right now. Whereas other students want the whole big picture, like what do I need to do over the next month? So I'm trying to think about how I can send out my announcements in varying formats. So sometimes I will send an email. Sometimes I will put an announcement at the top of our Canvas homepage. Sometimes it's video format. Sometimes it's a little graphic that I've made, just all different ways of getting that information to them. And hopefully one of those methods connects with them. I know some of them probably don't want to hear me talk and they skip over the video, so I can give them it in bullet points or whatever, then that information reaches them. And then lastly, social media can be a great way to communicate with students, but it also can be an inspiration for you. If this appeals to you, there's all kinds of stuff out there on Pinterest, on TikTok, on Instagram. Gina copied over an image from my course. This is an interactive Google Slides presentation that I was able to embed in my class and also email out to students. And this idea came from TikTok from a primary grades teacher who was using this type of thing. So they could click on these little circles. It would take them to another slide so they could easily find my contact information and info about me and my teaching experience. Along with that, like everybody is putting out, their ideas for online teaching. Don't get overwhelmed by that. But at the same time, if you can find something useful on Pinterest, or if you can look at Teachers Pay Teachers and see, oh, somebody else has already made this and I can support them by spending $3 and buying it from them and save myself some time, I totally support that. It's hard right now. You're being asked to do a lot. So if there's any way to collaborate, As a French teacher, I never have someone else, or very rarely have I had someone else in the building with me. So I've been using social media for years to keep up with other foreign language teacher ideas. So that's something I found really useful. But as long as you're not comparing yourself to others, just do your best in what works for you.
I love that. I love that last sentence. Also, when you were talking about getting kids to try to message you back, we have a number of teachers at Niswonger Online who one of their first actual assignments, a graded assignment, is just email me or send me a message in Canvas or just something, so that, because once you get that connection made, you have a much better chance of that student reaching out to you in the future when they do need you, because they're going to already have everything there that they need to get in touch with you. So next, let's talk to Britni and get some wonderful insights on Britni, who she's the reason, her and Kelly Vance are the reason why I always proofread my emails 5 times before I see them, because they are these amazing English teachers. And that's something I've always struggled with, is the English language. So Britni, go ahead and give us some insights into teaching online from your perspective.
Okay, sure. So when I started teaching online, I was the year I transitioned out of the classroom and into the library. So for me, I guess it was kind of like this year. It was like everything that I did in the classroom, I had to figure out how to do it online. Anyway, so some of my tips that I found over the years have worked to be proactive in communicating with kids. Like I do a module overview at the beginning of each week, and I talk about what they're going to do that week. I have a pretty little flyer, and I go through every assignment. I tell them how long each assignment should take, and if it's like a new website, I'll show them how to use it. And so I like to be proactive in letting them know this is what this week is going to look like for the kids. I find that's very helpful for them to kind of, especially the procrastinators, so they can get an idea of what all of it might be. And one of the things I find convenient is just I'm on my computer off and on throughout the day. I tell my kids, if you have a quick question, just email it to me. You know, send me a Canvas message, it'll email it to me, and just replying as fast as you can, even if it's not a fully outlined email with amazing grammar. I just like to answer that question so they can move on. And I think that's really helpful because kids know that if they ask you a question, you're going to answer it, and you're going to answer it speedily. Now, I don't do that like after hours a whole lot or on the weekend, you know, because I have a toddler I'm also hiding from. But throughout the day, if I go to my computer and I see, hey, I couldn't figure out how to get this website to work, I'll be like, try a different browser. It doesn't work well with Chrome or whatever, because those kinds of things come up pretty easily. And I always try to thank kids for reaching out and letting me know what was going on. So that's usually how I start almost every response to their question. I'll be like, thanks for reaching out. Here's how you blah, blah, blah. Because I don't want them to feel like it's an imposition for them to ask me questions. And it's so hard when your kids are distance learners, when they're online and the ones you literally never see in person, it can be really, really hard to build like a relationship with them. So I have found that just trying to sound as nice as I can and, you know, in the little videos, be as friendly as I can really helps them feel like they have a rapport or a relationship with you. And that's kind of skipping ahead to the third one, I guess. But when it comes to troubleshooting new technique, like everybody else has already said, these kids really struggle with technology. So like one of my first assignments is usually an autobiography assignment, so I can learn a little bit about them. And I just think that's an easy thing. It's an easy 100 for the kids. It's easy for me to get to know them, but they have a visual option to go with it. And the first couple of years, I had like a specific website. I couldn't get the website to work. Like over and over, they'd have that. I'm like, I don't care what website you use. Make a word cloud from any website that makes word clouds. I could care less. And so I've learned over the years to let them know that you're flexible. Do it by hand, do it on paper and scan it in. Like be that flexibility with what you want to do, or to model how to do it on the website. Like how many times can I go back and forth? I can't get this one website to work when they could easily use 5 other websites that probably would work very easily for them. So helping them troubleshoot, and then also helping them find an alternative. Being flexible with alternatives, I have found is very helpful, because they might see it in a different way that I do because of their exposure to different kinds of technology and different websites for different things. So I have found that flexibility, as long as they're getting the content that I want in the assignment, usually keeps those kids who just wouldn't do it because they couldn't get it to work from just not turning anything in. Let's see here. As far as rapport goes, it's really hard. I ask my kids like weekly to give me some kind of a comment, like what's going on with them or whatever, in that module overview assignment, just so that I can get an idea of what's happening in their lives. Or they will comment about something that's like in my video, like, I saw your cats, I also have cats. And I'm like, that's so cool that we both have cats, because like there are just so few ways that you can really connect and make those personal relationships. But like the first time a kid wrote me like a little essay at the end, a little comment about how I was her favorite teacher. And I'm like, how could I be your favorite teacher? You've never met me. Like, you've never even seen me. But she felt like she knew me because of these little videos I made and like being friendly and that sort of thing. And so trying to just have that as open a relationship as you can, and that professional distance capacity, I feel like they reach out to you more and let you know a little bit more about what's going on with them. And I think Karen also said being consistent with course layouts, but trying to be creative with, like, I guess the options that you give kids is really helpful. They know exactly, in my class, you go to the module, you go to the beginning of the module, you go through every assignment in order. I don't lock them because I want them to be able to see like how long it might take to do an assignment. I don't care for them to look at it, but the assignments kind of build on each other. So I want them to go in order, and they know that. And so I'm very intentional with how I lay out my modules. Try not to make them too large, like Dr. Fine had mentioned, and also trying to make them consistent in a way that kids can navigate them easily. Let's see here. And then as far as creative, it's hard to come up with creative things to do in maybe an ACT prep class, but there's always areas to find room for something fun. So like for this, there's like a little picture on here, and a girl this summer for a vocabulary assignment, they had to take some of the vocabulary from the practice and turn it into a poem. And so like that's the poem she came up with. And it's like fun, and it's not too stressful, but it gives them a creative outlet. I usually like to do at least one creative outlet task a unit, because, a lot of kids don't like writing essays in English, and English is a lot of writing, especially online. But, I like to put those graphic organizers in there, give them a creative writing option, give them a creative visual option, so that they can do like a social media page for a character in one unit, like just to give them that flexibility. And they surprise me. I'm sure I'll get TikToks now, but like I get Tumblrs sometimes, and I'm like, I don't even know how to read this Tumblr to tell if this is a particularly good Tumblr. But they are so excited to ask if they can do this like other formats. And so you want to support that and let them roll with it. And I guess my final thing is like, one big concern when I went and started teaching this online English too was just the idea that online students aren't going to perform as well on standardized tests. And but at the same time, I had a lot of faith in my content because I made it and I was very proud of it. But they do well. They usually perform pretty well. TOPS is the school that I've taught English through, and as for online school assessments, they've always done well by the state level. So I like to think that they're capable of that growth and achievement through the format. When you put your content on there and you really engage them with I guess lessons and work that's tied to the standards, they can still grow and they can still learn just as well as in the brick and mortar classroom or whatever. Okay.
Thank you, Britni. That was excellent. And a few things really stood out to me on that. One, she said flexible a lot. And we all, a saying I heard many, many years ago was the biggest difference between a new teacher and an old teacher is that when the power goes out, the old teacher can keep on teaching. And that's because we've been there, we've done that. We have a drawer full of worksheets or workbooks that we can just pull out and just keep going. And that's probably one of the biggest things that we don't have now, especially if you're just now teaching online for the first time, is you don't have that backup plan necessarily. And don't stress about it, but there are backup plans. Like Britni was saying, maybe you used a certain website and you really liked it and you want your kids to use that website, and then all of a sudden that website is down. You know, there's probably 5 other websites out there that can do kind of the same thing. And so you just have to go through and you just have to kind of do that troubleshooting. And like she said, model that for the students of this is what happens when you get on technology and it's not working. Also the idea of, I wish I had $1 for every time a student emailed me and said, sorry to bother you. And the very first thing I reply is, you are never bothering me. And that's a really, really big thing to make sure that these kids understand, because they do feel like they're bothering you. And especially students in our classes, because they're working at 8 o'clock at night and they're emailing us at 8 o'clock at night. And so they know that we're home with our families. And so we're just constantly kind of keeping that encouragement there and just saying, you're not bothering me. You email me anytime. If I'm busy, I might not email you right back, but you keep emailing me anytime. And so I just love all of that. Also the creative outlets. A friend of all of ours that we know well, Scott Lamy, he teaches math online, and he has some of the most creative and fun assignments. And I always say, if you can be creative with math, you can be creative with any subject that's out there. And also one thing that we all know is every one of these kids, they want to be YouTube stars. And so if you can get them into something where they're doing a Tumblr or a TikTok, or even now, you know, school systems are buying Flipgrid, which is basically just these little, it's a program where kids can do these little short video messages and assignments for their teachers. My 9-year-old loves those because she feels like she's a TikTok star, you know, or a YouTube star or whatever the new thing is. I don't even know. And so you can be creative with those, and you can still figure out ways to make sure that they're learning what needs to be learned, but doesn't always have to be just an essay or just a PowerPoint or just a worksheet. So those were excellent. I just wanted to talk about a few, and this is kind of a mix between that administrative side of that I see from being the director of Niswonger Online, and then also the teaching side, because I've definitely been a teacher much longer than I've been any kind of administrator. But the first thing, and I understand that as a teacher, you don't really have any control over this, but one thing you guys are probably realizing is that login time does not equal attendance when it comes to online learning. Like, it really, just sitting in the classroom not doing anything shouldn't equal attendance either, right? Wouldn't that be amazing if we could do that? But that was one of the big aha moments when I first started in this field, was that the students need to be accountable for more than just how many times they've logged in and how long they've logged in. Because you could log in right now to this webinar and then on your phone have YouTube pulled up and be watching something else, or Facebook, or doing whatever you want to do. And the kids know this too. And unfortunately, that's what happens a lot in our online classes. And so you really have to make the submitted work be that main reflection of a student's attendance. The next bullet here, and we all know this, right? But this is something that I'm always stressing, especially to anyone who's not really teaching in the middle of this pandemic right now, and who's not having to do anything in the online environment. But a quick story, my sister is a high school teacher, And she does not live in this area. She lives about an hour south of Phoenix. So she's not at a school system within this area, but she currently has 253 students this semester. And the reason why that is because when she said, I'll teach in person and online, they said, okay, online teaching's easy. So here's 200 online kids in addition to your 53 students that you're going to have in the classroom. They purchased something you may have heard of, Edgenuity. It's I only knew it as credit recovery until recently, and then I learned that apparently they have some more rigorous courses, and a lot of school systems are starting to use that. But basically the salesman for Edgenuity came to the school system and said, this is an easy program to use, and the teachers don't even have to grade. And so they give my sister 200 students, saying that you'll be fine. You don't have to worry about it. And of course she has to grade. I mean, an online program can't grade essays or paragraphs. I mean, they even have trouble grading fill in the blanks because kids don't spell or they forget to capitalize or something like that. So, if there is anybody that out there that still needs to hear this, I just had to say it, that online teaching is not easy. The third one here, everybody, Jill, Karen, and Brittany all talked about this already, but you really need to communicate constantly, and your kids need to know who you are. And that's just so important to stress. And that's also at the administrator level. Like, as a principal of a school right now, students who have never walked into your school, when they do walk into that school on the first day, they need to see your face and at least say, oh, I think that's Miss P. Is that Miss P? And kind of nudging their friends. Because if so, then you know that you've gotten your face out there. And the reason why you want to do that is just to make these kids feel more comfortable. And something that I always love is, in the past, I would go be at Food City and somebody be bagging my groceries and just kind of looking. And then all of a sudden they say, are you Miss P? And I'm like, yeah, who are you? And they're not even in my online class. They're in some other class. But they say, oh, yeah, I'm taking your French 1 class. And, and so I love that. And I think that's so important. The fourth one, this is just common sense, and we all know it from all levels, even us as adults. We appreciate that short and sweet. If I'm creating a how-to video for my kids, like trying to show them how to do something, once I start getting around that 5-minute mark, I just stop and say, okay, I got to cut this shorter, because the kids aren't going to watch it. And you know what? The parents aren't going to watch it. I don't even like sending long videos to my online teachers because they've got so much to do. I can't make them just sit and watch some video. And so anytime you can just be really short and sweet, I always recommend that you do that, whether it's students or adults. And then this last big one, this is something that is huge. And this is something that, again, I think all teachers are seeing right now. But this summer, as a teacher, you guys were probably in just a ton of training to help you learn technology and to help you be able to use that technology in your classroom or fully online, whatever was needed. But who wasn't being trained in that technology this summer was the students or their parents. And so, again, I know you guys are seeing this right now because you've worked your tail off and you've got this amazing class and you've got this content on it that you're really excited to see your students move through, but your kids can't even get past that first module because they're still struggling on, how do I share a Google Doc with you? Or, oh, I never check my email. I don't even know what my email is. Or, if they click on something and it doesn't pop up immediately, they have zero troubleshooting skills. And I'll tell you, the students have no troubleshooting skills, and the parents also have zero troubleshooting skills. And so it's frustrating for us who are putting all this time into creating these courses, and then kids just want to throw their hands up and and give up because it's not working. You know, that's what Jill and I hear every single day, multiple times a day, when kids are sending us trouble tickets and things like that. And when I started putting together kind of my notes and how to set up this little presentation here, I immediately thought of a great friend of mine, Jason Horn, and I wanted to reach out to him and get his insight on this, or kind of like, what's your one big I wish I knew. I joke that everybody knows Jason Horns. If you don't know him, he was the principal of Tennessee Online Public School. He was actually a lot more than the principal. He built that school from nothing. He created this online school from nothing. And he's now the secondary supervisor at Campbell County Schools. But I reached out to him for just for his thoughts. And what he wrote me went right along with this. He said, one of the lessons that I learned at TOPS that I think everyone is also learning right now is that online learning can be good, but not until we've built capacity in both our teachers and our students. We're spending a lot of time building that capacity in our teachers to teach online, but the true magic of TOPS didn't happen until we discovered that we also needed to build that capacity in the students that we were teaching, and we needed to teach them not only the subject, but also how to learn and how to succeed online. And that just really stood out to me. And I think that, again, that's something everyone is seeing as an online teacher right now, whether you have fully online students or hybrid, we're all seeing that. And that kind of that mindset that, okay, the teachers, we know what we're doing now, but now we got to get the students and even the parents, most of the parents, caught up. Final slide before I open and see if there are any questions, or before we let you guys go this afternoon, is I just want to try to motivate you a little bit. We could all use just a good thumbs up. You've got this. Let's keep our, let's stay hopeful. Let's stay motivated. But I just wanted to stress that everything you're doing right now, none of it is going to be a waste of time. You're creating resources that even when all of your students are in the classroom with you every day, Monday through Friday from now on, you're creating resources that you're going to have at your fingertips to use in the future. And by doing this, you're making yourself a better teacher. And through creating all of these resources, through the research that you're doing to try to find resources or to try to find new ideas, you're just making yourself better at this, at this career. Just like we said, many of us have said, the kids are learning this along with you. So really, if there's one thing that any of us can get out of this pandemic, let's hope that it's that mindset of patience and forgiveness. I ask my students for patience and forgiveness, and then I also give them that patience and that forgiveness. The fourth one there, this one is really big. And Britni talked about kind of modeling that troubleshooting of technology and things, but we have to be a model for these students. And when we get frustrated with the technology, we shouldn't say, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. No, but we should say, yeah, this sucks. So let's figure out together how we can fix it. And we just kind of need to model that mindset of, this is frustrating, this is new, this is difficult, but now how can we get past this and still keep learning everything that we need to learn? And teachers can do that. Teachers do that already in the classroom every day. Something happens and we are thinking out loud, like our back in the day when our projector wouldn't turn on. We're thinking and we're talking out loud and we're showing the kids that, okay, the projector's not working, but this is what I'm going to do and this is what I'm going to do. And and that's what we have to do with all of this new technology that's being introduced also. And then finally, everything that these kids are learning in the online environment is become a life skill for these kids. These kids cannot graduate from high school and not know how to share a Google Doc or not understand the importance of checking an email address. Because when they get to college, whether it's a TCAT or a four-year university, they're going to have to know how to do all of that. And even if they go straight into the workforce and want to get a job at Walmart, you no longer walk into Walmart and ask for a thing and just an application and sit and fill it out. No, they say, oh, go to walmart.com and click on careers. And so just that whole idea of these life skills, these technology skills that kids are learning, it's going to help every single one of them, no matter what their choices are when it comes to post-secondary. Okay, so I'm done. I'm going to ask and see if anybody has any questions, and you can feel free. I believe, John, can they unmute themselves if they want to ask any questions? I believe they can.
That's correct. They can.
Okay. And thank you, Tracy, and thank you, Bethany. Ask for patience and give patience. That's very true. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And thank you guys again for joining us. This is also going to be, my understanding is this is going to be saved, or I know at least my slides are going to be saved and can be shared. So if at any time you need any of that, feel free to get in touch with me and we can get that for you.
Gina, I have a question.
Yeah.
Any advice from our teacher leaders here on just like behind the scenes managing the keeping up with work in like at school? I mean, like student work kind of in this new format, or grading, or what kind of rhythm do you get into? Is work just is coming in at all these different times, and kids are submitting it in all these different ways? And like, what are just some tips and tricks just about that aspect?
Yeah. So Jill, Brittany, Karen, what do you want to say? I know we all have a lot to say about that, I'm sure. But what would you all say to that? How do you kind of manage and keep up with all that work that's coming in at all different times?
I try to grade like fast and easy things, like daily, like just I'll grade, they turn in, I get 3 a day, because they stagger, and I'll just grade something like complete, incomplete, those kind of formatives. And then I just try to do each other, like the other assignments, like try to get one done a day, or, have a Saturday where I knock up several out if I get behind, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a rhythm with mine, and because I've been doing it so long, I'll do things as the week goes along, but mostly on Wednesday at some point in the afternoon or evening, I'll do a bulk of things, and then I'll take early Saturday morning is a great time, and I get that done. One thing that I do in every single course with every single student, because I don't see them face to face, I feel like it's my job to interact with them the best I can. So I give a comment to every assignment, every student, every time, even if it's something like good research or something very simple, but I make sure that I connect every single time. I also, one thing with online, if you start to get behind in your grading, it can snowball. So the best thing to do is to consistently give yourself a schedule of when you're going to do that and how you're going to do that. I'm one of those people that I'd rather get it done and then go and play because things happen. And I hate getting to the end of the weekend and then realizing, oh no, tomorrow's Monday morning and I have a lot to do. So consistency is really important with, and then the students know that like on Wednesday nights, they'll get a bunch of things graded and on Saturday morning. And then when I do it that way, because it's tied into their attendance, it makes it so easy to do attendance, because if they haven't turned their work in, then they don't get attendance points when we do Power School.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy left a good comment there. She says that she had a teacher tell her she's going to make a schedule for grading and planning, and I've been trying to do better. I have 2 small kids and I get interrupted constantly, especially with them not in the classroom right now. So I've been trying to kind of batch things together. So if I need to make videos, try to make all my videos that I can think of that I need to make at one sitting. I also, like Karen, like to grade first thing on a Saturday morning. I know that not everybody wants to give up their weekend in that way. And I totally, as somebody who's always worked way too much, totally try to protect your weekend if you can. But for me, Saturday morning, everybody in my house is happy. I'm not having to rush them out to school or get them signed into Google Classroom. So I just sit down and do as much of it as I can with a cup of coffee. And like Karen, I also really love using that opportunity to connect with students and leave them a comment. And sometimes I like to use their name. So even if it's the same comment, thanks for participating so well in this discussion, Casey, and then copy and paste that for the next student. Thanks for participating and interacting with your classmates, Bob, or whatever. But I feel like that they don't know that I've said basically the same comment, but they see that I'm using their name and I'm connecting with them. Once in a while, I also try to do a video comment to them, especially in the foreign language realm where it helps for them to see my mouth moving and see how and if they need help with pronunciation. But I think it is just another thing I do is Canvas has a free app. The students can use the student app. We have the teacher app accessible, and so sometimes I'll just find a way to grade a few, like Britni was saying, just a few at a time by just logging into that app when I have a few spare moments.
I just wanted to add, I have found that for me, grading students who are performing poorly, like I grade those first, like the kids that are at risk that I'm worried about. Even if I'm behind on grading, I always try to get their grades in first so that I can send them a message, send their parents a message, send administration a message, just to let people know that these are the kids who are at risk. Because if you do get behind and they don't know they're failing, which they probably should, because usually it's because they turned in something that was just not at all what it should be. There's just so many things for them to try to make up. That was a lesson I learned early in my first couple of years, to just do as much, to stay on top of the at-risk kids so that you can try to get them to succeed and get caught up.
Okay, well, I have nothing to add to that. That was amazing. I do a lot of that. Really, I'm like Britni, that those students, and that also means putting in zeros for students who are missing work, because for us, our kids are across the state, and if their counselor is logging in and that kid's only done one assignment this month and made a 100, if I haven't put in zeros, that kid has a 100. And so the counselor's like, oh, yay, Bob has a 100, next. And when in reality, he has a 9% average because he's missing 10 assignments. So I do think that's a really good point, because then everybody, and if your parents have access to, like I have access to Power School as a parent, and I can see all of my kids, their grades, and I can see what's missing, and so I really appreciate that. But if you do have somebody that's behind or at risk, that is just super important.
Well, Gina, we want to thank you and your teachers again for this session. And yes, this session will be uploaded to our Remote Learning Series website and onto our Rural Life YouTube channel. So people will be able to watch it. John has just dropped in the chat our evaluation. Please take just 1 minute to give us some feedback about this session, including a spot for you to share if there are other topics you want us to explore in some virtual learning sessions such as this one. With that, I think we can wrap it up, and again, just say thank you so much for sharing your all's expertise.
Thank you. Thanks to my teachers that popped on here this afternoon. You guys are awesome. Thanks.